Feels weird starting so many of these meditation episodes with given the state of the world today. But given the state of the world today, there's a lot of corruption easily seen, a lot of evil deeds being very unashamedly performed, whether that's in the various attacks and assaults on civil liberties or the literal attacks and assaults on people, places, and things. There's a lot of violence, anger, corruption, greed, evil in the world. And it's easy for us to get distracted and focus in on the wrong things and allow it to prosper. So today, as we sit under the darkness of the new moon, contemplating the Via Negativa, let's learn how to cut the roots of evil as we walk together down creation's paths. Hello, everyone. My name is Charlie, and I am a Christopagan Druid and priest of Bridget.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian. I'm a Christopagan Druid and sous chef to the Dagda.
And today we are going to be talking about the moon devotion that you can find over at CreationsPaths.com. I really want to dig into this a bit more philosophically because honestly, the written portion of it, the little essay portion, the theme, could have been 20 to 40 times longer than it is. We're not going to go that long, but we're going to dig in a little deeper. Before we get into that, if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, whatever the terminology happens to be on whatever app you're listening to us on. We do 5 original Christopagan and Druid episodes Monday through Friday, and you don't notice a thing because we get a lot of fun stuff coming up. All right, let's jump into it now, shall we?
Blessed are you, O Yah, in the world around us, in the face of the sun and the moon, in the heart of all we meet. Blessed are you, O Yah, in the heart of the living, in the mind of the thinking, in the soul of your children. Adonai ha-Adonim, the true sovereign respected within and without. Empty our hearts of favoritism, holding none above another. Empty our minds of vanity, believing you can be bribed. Empty our spirits of bias, so we might live in the holy truth. All are equal in the life of God. God lives in all life. Life is perfected through love.
Amen. One of the big problems that I see in the world today, and I understand, and this is going to be one of those very nuanced episodes where I'm saying 2 different things at the same time, and I need you to try to follow along. It is easy for us to get distracted by the faces and names of those people, states, and groups that are doing bad things. Now, that does not mean we do not oppose them, work against them, that we do not try to set things right, that we do not protest. That is not what I'm saying at all. But we are distracted by them because if we stay focused on, say, the MAGA movement, this is what reformed out of the neocons. This is what reformed out of the Reagan Revolution. This is what reformed out of the moral majority. This is what reformed, keep going back and back and back. The seeds of this movement, all the way back to the American Bund. And before the American Bund, we can go back to Andrew Jackson. And before Andrew Jackson, we can just keep tracing this back and back and back. The focus is always on the faces. George H.W. Bush did not win re-election, therefore Reaganism was defeated. No, it just regrouped, respawned, and formed something different, something new, something immunized to the antibodies that we developed and came back stronger and more oppressive under Newt Gingrich, and on and on and on. Yes, we have to protest and we have to stand up to the faces, the people, the groups that are causing so much harm in the world today. But when we stay focused on those people and places, and those people and groups, we lose sight of the underlying factors that allow them to keep coming back. When we're not going after racism at its roots, when we're not helping people to understand how equality for all really means equality for all, and that we're trying to raise all boats, when we're not doing the work that needs to be done, even if one force of evil is defeated, the seeds are already laid for the next one to grow. And that's really something I think we need to start thinking about now. This person bad, that group bad, this nation state doing bad things. And yes, I can say yes to the vast majority of those things that are being pointed at. Yes, oppose those things. Stand up against those things. Hexes and curses are wonderful things. Protests are wonderful things. But if we get too distracted by the people, by the faces and personalities, we're just allowing them to come back again in a different form. It's a horrific cultural reincarnation that we have seen over and over again of these forces that are trying to take from the poor and give to the rich. These forces that are trying to entrench the most vile forms of oppression against all minorities, from racial and ethnic groups to women to the LGBTQ community. If we're not going after the root of the problem will just grow back. It's like thinking that you've gotten rid of all of the weeds in your yard because you mowed the lawn. All you did was trim them down. They're going to grow back. They're still there. They're still rooted. They're still going to come back. And so what we need to be doing, especially here in the Via Negativa, where we're learning to let go, is learning to let go of our preconceived notions that by defeating a certain group or person, we have undercut and somehow won a victory over the root causes themselves. So long as there is homelessness and hunger, we're not going to get rid of crime. We're not going to get rid of overzealous police. We're not going to get rid of the things that we know that we need to get rid of. It's going to be there just under the surface. And we're going to have to struggle and fight against it again and again under different forms. And I think that's hard for a lot of people to see, especially in the face of bad, when it's going on right in front of them. But when we start to see what the actual things are that need to be addressed, it helps us to figure out the means and the policies and the people we want to support that will help us to get through to the other side where they won't grow back. The reason I used George Herbert Walker Bush as the example is the solution was supposed to be Bill Clinton, who was himself a neoconservative Democrat who continued and built upon the work of Ronald Reagan. So the actual thing that was creating the wage disparity and the wealth gap and causing the poverty to grow in the country continued, just under a new name, under a new face. And we didn't address the root problem. This has been a cyclic issue with us in this country and in a lot of countries around the world.
It also helped to create new and additional problems, like in that particular example, because everyone was so focused on an individual rather than the root causes. When the problems continued, even though the faces changed, it allowed a narrative of they're all just the same.
Yep.
And a whole additional problem of apathy.
You're breaking up.
It allowed the problem of apathy to creep in, allow the root problem to grow even deeper and more problematic.
This really is the cycle we keep facing. I'm not saying that we don't protest the current actions going on. I'm not saying we just pretend the current administration isn't doing the things it's doing in the overreaches. That's not what I'm saying at all. And I'm not saying we just need to blindly reach our hands across the aisle and embrace people that are very disingenuous in their support for the causes we also support. The real trick is figuring out how to fix the levers of power so that these kinds of abuses cannot happen in the future. It's about repairing and fixing the system so that the system cannot be abused in the way that it is currently and continually being abused by those in power.
The other powerful thing in this of combating evil is that you're speaking better truth to the people you're communicating with. So for instance, when you're normally talking to somebody, you're going, this person bad because, and then you're actually talking about the root, they're going to get distracted with that person. And so when that person goes and the problem doesn't fix it, those that listen to you are going to become disengaged. Disillusioned, because they're going to be like, that didn't solve the problem. They're going to assume that you don't know what you're talking about because that person's gone, the next person came in and the same thing happened all over again.
Or that the problem is just so endemic that it's part of nature.
Yeah. Also, when you're attacking, we need to hold those made those poor decisions accountable, but we don't need to make them an enemy. Their journey of rehabilitation, their journey of repentance, of changing their mind gets hindered when somebody is continually calling them evil and not allowing them to turn against the root that corrupted them. It's not going to happen in every case, but that opportunity should be given, because it can be so much more powerful if somebody who was supporting that root of evil converts and turns against it, because they become hyper vigilant.
This is one of the reasons why I like to point out so often that I was raised within a very Christian nationalist framework. I volunteered for many Republican causes. I attended many of the Marches for Life. I was really entrenched in this movement for a lot of my younger years, for probably half of my life. There is a path out, and I am a living example of that. Not everyone is going to take a path out. And this is where we have to be careful and not be naive and think that if we're just nice to everybody, that's going to solve the problem. It's not about being nice. It's about realizing where the problems actually are. The problem with J.K. Rowling or any other turf that's decided to go after trans people in this climate is not actually a problem with them. It's a problem with this divisive move that's going on to separate people who see themselves as feminists, who are working for women's rights, away from the LGBT community, so that both sides can be weakened. We're looking at a place now where in England, for example, they have rolled back trans rights, and now they're looking at rolling back abortion rights in a country where that would have been thought of as impossible, because this wasn't even a conservative cause in England until recently. But when you go after one person's rights, it's always a wedge to go after multiple. And yes, we can harp all we want about this person or that person. If we're not going after the actual cause, that they're trying to separate people, that they're trying to make us feel like we are each other's enemies. The problem is not that there's not enough food to go around. We solved world hunger in the 1950s and 60s. It's solved. We know how to feed everyone on Earth. We don't, because companies want to make money off the food that they sell. And we've left food as a for-profit venture. We make enough food to feed everyone on Earth. Global capitalism. Yeah, that is the root cause of the problem. We know how to end world hunger. We know how to end the homeless crisis. We know how to build housing. We know how to get people into homes, into shelter. But it's better for rich people to use housing as a way to ensure their wealth, almost like a CD, just accruing value and being empty. The amount of housing that is empty in these places that cannot find housing for the poorest people is obnoxious and painful. That's because we do not see housing as a human right. We do not see power as a human. We don't see the internet as a human. We don't see food as a human. We don't see medicine as a human right. We have the technology and the ability to make all of this available to everyone for free. We choose not to. We actively make the choice not to, because it's more important that a CEO of a medical company gets a bonus at the end of the year than it is for children to live to adulthood. And that's a harsh thing to say, but it is true. The problem is not that wealthy corporation or that CEO, and we can point to a lot of them and we can name them by name. They're not the problem. The problem is that type of greed is allowed in the system. We have not defined basic life-saving healthcare as a human right. Cosmetic surgery is often elective. If you're just wanting to be prettier, that is elective. And we can have conversations about that. But there are surgeries that people need to survive. There are medicines that people need to survive. And the fact that people have to figure out if they're going to go hungry or pay for their medicine is ridiculous. We have allowed greed to become the heart of our civilization. And we cannot be surprised when greed torments us and tears us apart. We have allowed hatred and division to be the core of our politics. And we cannot be surprised when we are divided and filled with hate and violence.
This is why a lot of times when I would try to talk to people about this, I tried to explain it in terms of understanding the basic nature of a thing, where a carnivore eats meat. Most people, when you talk to them, have the common sense to know if a tiger or a lion or a crocodile eats a person, you have to put it down because it is now a man-eater, and that's its nature, and we can't have that. At the same time, we allow certain areas of our culture to be listed as for profit. And then we get shocked when that segment for profit allows people to die because it becomes a basic thing that people need, food and shelter. Every time I'm just like, we made it a man eater and we're not willing to put it down. We just need to have the creative thought and go, let's put this man eater down.
And I want to be clear, we're
And
not talking
April
about
Frank
the people
Trent.
here. We're
No,
talking about the
the system.
institutions, the system.
We turned these systems into for-profit systems, and then we get shocked when they go, people can just die. We don't care, because it's all about the profit and how much profit can be made. In a lot of these cases, it's only become more obvious now because it is such an excess. I'm not talking about the company covering its expenses and paying for the employees and stuff like that, because most of the time the argument devolves there. That's all covered before you get to the point in the ledger that's called profit. That's all part of gross income. The profit area is after all. That's after everything's been paid for.
We tell ourselves the sweet lie that we have to let the corporations profit, or how will they come up with new medicines? They don't come up with new medicine. The way we have traditionally developed the medical care that we have is the government funds research, or a university through government grants funds research. And then that research that we paid for gets sold to a for-profit company to make money off of. We created those patents and are allowing them to be used by for-profit corporations against us. We need to see that the system is broken. We have the systems in place that we could get rid of the profit motive and nothing bad would happen. We had the National Institutes of Health and others working to find cures and solutions to these issues. When they did, those solutions were sold to for-profit companies. And then they charged us for the solutions that we developed. Why are we putting a middleman in here? That's what I mean when I say seeing the problem. We subsidize the housing that's built. We give them tax grants and tax credits, and we fund these lavish estates being built. We fund these giant apartment complexes being built, these condominiums, these townhouses. All of this housing is funded by our money. And then we let them do whatever they want with it. We know how to build houses. We just hand it off to people whose only interest is making a profit and not stewarding these resources for the benefit of all. And that's what I mean when I say we need to keep our anger where it needs to be. Yes, bad man, never going to say, fill in the name here, should not be a target of our anger and rage because they did something bad. Protest that company, protest that government, protesting, yes. But we remove bad man and everything's fixed. That's not going to fix the problem. That is never going to fix the problem. Say it with me now, because I'm sure if you've listened to this podcast long enough, you know the refrain. We war not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in high places. Our warfare, our work is always against the systems of control and oppression that try to hold us down. And if we are not working as our sacred cause and duty to dismantle those systems of control, they're just going to reincarnate in a new person, in a new group, in a new movement, and they're going to come back. And that's something I'm very concerned of right now, because I've seen this play out several times in my life. I remember the neocons under George W. Bush, and I see what's going on now. And I'm seeing history repeat itself. I'm old enough to remember Ronald Reagan. It's the same cycle stuck on repeat, because we are not addressing the basic root causes that keep bringing the suffering to us, to your house, every time you come home and you do nothing to fix the stairs and wondering why your toe is always hurting. But we keep stubbing our toe because we're not fixing the basic cause of the problem. I'm not saying don't protest. Go out, protest. Be loud, be proud, be strong in opposing the harm that's currently being done. But if we want to stop future harm, we have to address the root causes. And until we start doing that and stop just plastering over it, we're not going to get to where we want to go. I hope this episode has meant something to you. I hope this has helped you out. This is the letting go I feel that we really need right now in the Via Negativa, because we hold up this mask and we think that this person, place, or thing are the problem. And that's with the exception of if you're living in that town, and where was it? Pennsylvania, where the coal mines caught fire underneath. And so they had to move because the poison gas leaking up. Okay, yeah, the place is the problem. Move and you'll be okay. But also maybe be very careful about how mining happens in the future so you don't set another coal vein on fire.
Yeah, even in that case, it was the mining technology.
Yeah.
It's like with the Dust Bowl, the immediate farms that were all dried up and not producing crops needed to be fixed so we could have crops. You got to treat the immediate thing there. But it was the manner in which the farming was done that was the root problem behind it. And once we address that, then we can actually fix that issue.
Yeah, because even the Dust Bowl's back again.
Yeah.
We're playing,
Yeah, because
we're playing the hits.
he made the mistake of going, all done, it's fixed, and walked away.
Yeah.
And we as a society stopped being as mindful and have allowed bad practices in farming to come back.
So I would love to know your thoughts. You can share them in the comments, but be constructive. We will delete anything that is being harmful, hateful, or overly hostile. We are here for constructive solutions and constructive solutions only. If you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, or CreationsPaths.com, you can leave a comment right there. If you're listening to us anywhere else, even if they say you can leave a comment, they don't notify us, so we won't know. But you can leave a comment there anyway, because engagement is magic. And then head over to CreationsPaths.com, click on chat, and you can leave a message there, and we will see it, and we will be able to get back to you. While you're there, if you happen to have a few dollars, you can pass our way. We offer monthly and annual memberships. You can also support us on Patreon and Ko-fi. I am CE Dorset on both, and you can support us using the Cash App hashtag CreationsPaths. Thank you to everybody who does that. We are ever so grateful. Thank you so much. You all really do help us keep the lights on, keep a roof over our head, and food on our table. If we've ever said anything that's helped you out, please share it with others. That helps us out more than you know. And as we're heading out today,
let us read from the closing blessing. Holy One, source of justice and compassion, we have turned inward to face that wounds. We have turned inward to face what wounds the world and our own hearts. We have named evil not to become entangled in it, but to meet it with truth and loving kindness. Grant us the courage to see past distractions and blame, to win freedom from suffering for every soul, even those caught in the snares of ignorance and harm. May your Spirit empower us to discern the roots of evil, not merely its branches, and to sever those roots with the acts of wisdom, the light of compassion, the strength of community, and the grace that flows from you. Where we have uprooted hatred, plant seeds of reconciliation. Where we have cut away division, grow forests of mercy. Let us walk forth in peace, rooted in your impartial love, clear-eyed and open-hearted, servants of healing, laborers in the work of making all things new. Amen.
amen.